Grace Kelly wasn't just another pretty face in 1950s Hollywood. She was a very definition of elegance, grace, and talent wrapped into one. From the moment she stepped onto the silver screen, it was clear she was destined for something extraordinary. Born into a wealthy Philadelphia family, Grace had a refined upbringing, but it was her natural charm and striking looks that caught the attention of Hollywood scouts. At just 19, she signed a contract with MGM, the studio that would turn her into one of the most iconic actresses of the era. Her rise was swift and stunning. Grace's breakthrough role came in films like High Noon and Dial M for Murder, where she combined poise with an intensity that set her apart. By 1954, she won the Academy Award for Best Actress for The Country Girl, cementing her status as Hollywood royalty. Unlike many stars of the time, Grace wasn't just about looks. Her performances had depth and nuance, making her one of the most respected actresses in the business. But it wasn't just her talent that made her stand out. MGM carefully crafted her image as the ultimate symbol of glamour and sophistication. Studios loved her because she represented a new kind of star, not just glamorous, but relatable and graceful. She was the embodiment of the American dream, a perfect blend of beauty, brains, and class. Fans adored her for her polished style, from her iconic red lipstick to her flawless fashion sense, which often influenced trends worldwide. Despite her meteoric success, Grace was known for a calm and reserved personality, standing apart from the Hollywood party scene that so many of her contemporaries thrived in. She was rarely seen embroiled in scandals or controversies, which only added to her aura of perfection. Yet behind the scenes, things weren't always as picture-perfect as they seemed. Hollywood in the 1950s was a world tightly controlled by the studio system, and stars like Grace were expected to play by the rules. Studios had the power to shape every aspect of an actor's life, from the roles they took to who they dated. Grace's life was no exception. She had to carefully balance her public image and private desires. This pressure sometimes created a tension between the woman she was and the persona Hollywood demanded. Still, Grace Kelly was undeniably at the peak of her career. She was one of the highest paid actresses, sought after by top directors and producers. Her name alone could guarantee a movie success. It seemed like she had it all: fame, fortune, and the respect of her peers. But beneath the dazzling surface, something was stirring, a feeling that maybe this glamorous life wasn't quite enough. The world saw her as a Hollywood queen, but Grace herself was beginning to question what she truly wanted from life. Was the endless cycle of filming, promoting, and public appearances really her dream? Or was there something else calling her? Something beyond the bright lights and flashing cameras? As the story unfolds, we'll see how that question would change everything for Grace Kelly, leading to a decision that shocked not just Hollywood, but the entire world. Grace Kelly's life was about to take a turn that no one saw coming. A shift from Hollywood's bright spotlight to the glittering, yet mysterious, world of royalty. The story begins in 1955 at the Cannes Film Festival, an event where film stars, directors, and celebrities from around the world gathered to celebrate cinema. It was here that Grace met Prince Rainier III of Monaco, a man whose world was as different from Hollywood as night and day. Rainier was a reserved, serious figure who ruled over the tiny Principality of Monaco with a strong sense of duty and tradition. Unlike the flashbulbs and movie premieres Grace was used to, his life was bound by centuries of royal protocol and expectations. Yet, when these two met, something undeniable sparked between them, a connection that would change both their lives forever. Their romance was sudden but intense. Within months, whispers about their courtship spread like wildfire through the media. Hollywood couldn't believe one of its brightest stars was considering a future away from the camera. The announcement of their engagement in January 1956 stunned the world. Grace Kelly, the epitome of Hollywood glamour, was going to become Princess of Monaco. Public reactions were mixed and often dramatic. Many in Hollywood saw this as Grace walking away from a promising career, trading in the fame and freedom of an actress for a life bound by royal expectations. Some fans felt betrayed, fearing she'd disappear forever from the screen. But others romanticize a union, a real-life fairy tale where a princess left the silver screen to embrace true love and duty. Hollywood insiders weren't silent either. There were rumors that studio executives were unhappy with Grace's choice. MGM, which had built her star, reportedly saw the engagement as a loss and were worried about how it would affect their profits. The idea that she was abandoning a lucrative contract and a flourishing career seemed almost unthinkable. Yet beneath the public spectacle, Grace's decision was deeply personal. She wasn't just a star in search of a new role. She was a woman grappling with the realities of fame, privacy, and what she wanted out of life. The pressures of Hollywood had grown heavy. The constant scrutiny, scripted public appearances, and limited control over her own image wore on her. The idea of a quieter, more meaningful existence, even if it meant royal duties and protocol, held a powerful appeal. But what most didn't see was the complexity of the choice she was making. Becoming a princess wasn't just about glamour and tiaras. It meant giving up her independence, her career, and the life she knew. It meant stepping into a role with expectations she hadn't experienced before, with responsibilities that went far beyond personal ambition. As the news headlines blared her engagement, there was a deeper story unfolding, a story of sacrifice, identity, and transformation. Grace Kelly was about to step into a world where every move would be watched, not as a beloved actress, but as a symbol of a centuries-old monarchy. The question lingering in everyone's minds was simple. Was she ready for this new life, or was she trading one kind of cage for another? But the reality of this royal chapter was far from a perfect fairy tale. What happened next would challenge everything Grace believed about herself and her future. Behind the sparkling lights and perfect smiles, Grace Kelly's story wasn't just one of Hollywood success and royal romance. It was also marked by quiet struggles that few ever saw. While the world admired her as a flawless star and soon-to-be princess, Grace wrestled with feelings that went far deeper than fame or fairy tales. Hollywood had shaped her into an icon, but also boxed her in. The studio system controlled not only the roles she played, but often her very image and choices. Grace wasn't just an actress. She was a carefully constructed symbol of beauty and elegance. Every move she made was scrutinized. The pressure to maintain that ideal took a toll, leaving her craving something more authentic, something beyond scripted lines and glamorous premieres. She often felt confined by the roles she was offered. Despite her talent, many parts were shallow or one-dimensional, focused mostly on her looks rather than her depth as an actress. Grace wanted to break free from predictable and prove herself in more challenging roles. But Hollywood was reluctant to risk the magic formula they had found in her. Off-screen, Grace's personal life was equally complicated. The intense spotlight made privacy nearly impossible. Paparazzi followed her every step, and rumors swirled constantly. The pressure to remain perfect was exhausting. Friends close to her have revealed how she sometimes felt trapped, yearning for a normal life that seemed just out of reach. When the news of her engagement to Prince Rainier broke, some saw it as an escape from the suffocating demands of Hollywood. Yet, the reality was more nuanced. Grace wasn't running away. She was searching for purpose and peace. The idea of stepping into a new life, with clear roles and responsibilities, seemed like a chance to regain control. But even that came with its own set of challenges. The world of royalty was strict, demanding, and filled with its own kinds of invisible chains. Grace knew she was giving up her career, her independence, and much of her personal freedom. It was a monumental choice that few understood, and even fewer could imagine the emotional weight it carried. There were whispers of personal conflicts and pressure from those around her. Some claimed that Grace felt torn between loyalty to her family, Hollywood, and this new life that awaited her. Others speculated she struggled with doubts, wondering if she was making the right decision. These inner battles remained private, carefully hidden behind her composed public image. This period of Grace's life was a turning point, not just a change in career, but a profound identity shift. She was moving from being a celebrated individual to becoming a symbol, a representative of an entire nation. The expectations were enormous, and the stakes higher than any film role she had ever played. What many don't realize is how much courage it took for Grace to make this leap. It wasn't just about saying goodbye to Hollywood. It was about embracing uncertainty and reshaping her entire life. The struggles behind the glamour reveal a woman who was more complex, more human than the public ever knew. And yet, despite the challenges, she was determined to make her new role work. But the road ahead was filled with unexpected trials and sacrifices that would test her in ways no movie ever could. Grace Kelly's decision to walk away from Hollywood wasn't sudden. It was a result of a quiet, personal reckoning that few outside her inner circle fully understood. For a woman at the peak of her career, it was almost unthinkable to give up everything she had built, especially when fame and success were still within easy reach. But for Grace, the choice was clear. She was ready to close the chapter on Hollywood and begin a life defined by something far greater than movies. Her last film, High Society in 1956, was more than just a final role. It was a farewell statement. Though the movie was filled with glitz and charm, Grace's heart was already elsewhere. The cameras, the scripts, and the bright lights no longer held the same allure. She had made up her mind, and when she announced her retirement from acting to marry Prince Rainier, the world was stunned. Fans and critics alike couldn't quite believe it. Here was a woman who seemed to have it all: fame, fortune, critical acclaim, and she was choosing a life where none of that would be guaranteed. The decision sparked endless speculation. Was she truly ready to give up her independence? Did she regret what she was leaving behind? Or was this a bold leap toward a new kind of freedom? Hollywood insiders had mixed reactions. Some admired her courage, while others saw it as a tragic loss to the industry. Studios worried about the future of their investment, and gossip columns churned out stories about what Grace's departure meant for her career and the studio system. Yet, Grace remained steadfast. This was about more than career moves. It was about her own happiness and values. Behind the scenes, family and close friends played a significant role in supporting her decision. Grace's parents, while initially surprised, understood her desire for a more private, meaningful life. They recognized the toll Hollywood had taken and hoped that marriage and royal duties might offer her peace. Still, the reality was complex. She wasn't just marrying a prince. She was stepping into a centuries-old tradition with expectations that few modern women could fully grasp. The transition wasn't easy. Grace had to prepare for the enormous responsibilities that came with being a princess. This meant extensive training in diplomacy, etiquette, and the public role she would play. Unlike Hollywood, where she had some control over her image, the royal spotlight was relentless and unforgiving. Every gesture and word would be analyzed and scrutinized. Yet Grace embraced the challenge with a determination that surprised many. She wanted to honor her new role and make a positive impact. It wasn't just about the title of the fairy tale. It was about commitment, duty, and redefining herself on her own terms. Her final public statement before leaving Hollywood captured this beautifully. She spoke of gratitude for her career, but expressed a deep desire to start a new life where love and service took center stage. It was a moment of transition, full of hope but tinged with uncertainty. The world watched as Grace Kelly, Hollywood's golden girl, disappeared from the screen and stepped into history as Princess Grace of Monaco. But the story was far from over. Leaving Hollywood was just the beginning of a new journey, one filled with unexpected challenges and profound personal growth. Stepping into royal life was nothing like the glamorous Hollywood world Grace Kelly had left behind. Becoming Princess of Monaco meant trading movie premieres for state functions, red carpets for diplomatic protocols, and script lines for real-life responsibilities that affected thousands of people. The fantasy many imagined was far more complicated, and sometimes far darker. Grace quickly realized that being a princess wasn't about tiaras and fairy tales. It was about duty, sacrifice, and constant public scrutiny. She moved from being the center of attention as a celebrated actress to a symbol representing an entire nation. Every gesture, every word was carefully watched, dissected, and judged by the media and her new subjects alike. The adjustment was challenging. Grace had to learn the unspoken rules of royal life, where tradition often overpowered personal desires. Unlike Hollywood, where she had some control over her career and public image, in Monaco, she was bound by centuries-old expectations and an almost suffocating protocol. The freedom she once took for granted was suddenly gone. She embraced her new role with a determination few expected. Princess Grace devoted herself to charitable work, cultural initiatives, and representing Monaco on the world stage. She worked tirelessly to use her status for good, becoming a beloved figure among her people. But despite her public grace, there were moments of loneliness and isolation that no one saw. The transition was also a personal loss. Grace left behind not only her career, but a part of her identity. Hollywood had defined much of who she was, an independent woman, an artist with a voice. In Monaco, she became more of a figurehead, living under the watchful eyes of the press and the royal family. Rumors circulated about how difficult this change was. Some insiders whispered that Grace sometimes felt trapped, caught between the royal expectations and her own dreams. Her public smiles masked private struggles, and the fairy tale was far from perfect. It was a life of immense pressure, with little room for mistakes or rebellion. Yet, she found ways to carve out a meaningful existence. Grace was known for her elegance and poise, but behind that was a woman committed to her family and her new country. She became a devoted mother and a strong presence in Monaco's social and political life. Her efforts helped modernize Monaco's image and raise its profile internationally. Still, even with her successes, the question lingered. Did Grace ever regret leaving Hollywood behind? Some biographers suggest she missed the creative freedom and the excitement of acting. Others argue she found something more valuable in her royal role: purpose, stability, and love. What's undeniable is that her life after Hollywood was a balancing act, one full of both triumph and sacrifice. The glamour faded, replaced by a real and often difficult responsibility that few outsiders could understand. The story of Grace Kelly's royal years challenges the simple fairy tale we've all heard. It reveals a woman who reinvented herself, facing a world that was as demanding as any movie role, if not more so. But the deeper truth is this: Grace's journey was about more than fame or status. It was about navigating identity, purpose, and the price of choosing a life that few could imagine. And what happened next in her royal chapter would change Monaco and Grace herself in ways no one expected. Even decades after Grace Kelly stepped into royal life, her story continues to fascinate and provoke questions. The glamour, the fairy tale romance, and the dramatic shift from Hollywood to royalty remain irresistible to fans and historians alike. But in recent years, new rumors and speculations have emerged that add layers to her legacy, layers that some say reveal a more complex and human side to the legendary princess. One of the most persistent whispers involves the nature of Grace's life behind palace walls. Though adored publicly, insiders suggest the pressures of royal life sometimes weighed heavily on her. Some speculate that Grace struggled more than ever with the loss of autonomy, feeling trapped by duties and expectations that left little room for personal freedom. While there's no clear proof, these rumors fuel debates about how much happiness royalty really brought her. Another angle that's resurfaced recently concerns Grace's relationships within the royal family. Monaco's palace has always been a place of tradition, and sometimes tension. Reports hint at occasional conflicts and power struggles behind the scenes, including with members of the extended family. While these whispers are mostly unconfirmed, they remind us that royal life, even for a beloved princess, is rarely simple or peaceful. In the public eye, Grace Kelly's legacy remains golden. She is still celebrated as a fashion icon, a symbol of elegance and poise, and a woman who made a bold choice that redefined her life. But the recent speculations invite us to look deeper, to question the polished surface, and consider the sacrifices and challenges that fame and royalty demand. Interestingly, there's also been fresh interest in how Grace's Hollywood career might have evolved if she'd stayed. Some film historians imagine a path where she matured into more dramatic, complex roles, becoming one of the great actresses of her time. Others argue that the pressures of stardom, combined with Hollywood's changing landscape, might have made that difficult. Today, Grace Kelly's story serves as a powerful reminder of the cost of choices. How one woman's decision to leave everything behind reshaped not only her own life, but the image of Monaco and even Hollywood. Her legacy inspires admiration but also invites empathy, as we remember that behind every fairy tale is a real person with hopes, fears, and struggles. What's most compelling is how her story still sparks conversation and curiosity. From fashion lovers to royal watchers, from film buffs to cultural historians, Grace Kelly's journey resonates across generations. And while many questions about her life remain unanswered, that mystery is part of what keeps her legend alive. Her final years, marked by both grace and tragedy, add a poignant chapter to a life lived under the spotlight and in the shadows. The princess who once captivated Hollywood never stopped captivating the world, not just as a symbol, but as a woman who dared to choose a different path. Grace Kelly's journey from Hollywood icon to royal princess remains one of the most fascinating stories of the 20th century. It's a tale of transformation, courage, and sacrifice, where the glittering glamour of fame collided with the heavy weight of duty and tradition. Through it all, Grace showed a strength and grace that went beyond the spotlight, reminding us that behind every fairy tale is a deeply human story. Her decision to leave Hollywood wasn't just about love or fame. It was about searching for meaning, identity, and a new kind of freedom. She stepped away from the scripts and cameras to embrace a life that demanded far more than performance. It required dedication to a country, to a family, and to a legacy that would outlast her. Yet, her royal life wasn't without its challenges. The pressures she faced, both public and private, reveal a woman who bore her crown with dignity, even when the burden fell heavy. The rumors and speculations that continue to swirl only remind us how complex and fragile fame and royalty can be. Grace Kelly's story encourages us to think about the choices we make and the cost they carry. It invites us to look beyond the surface, to understand the struggles behind the beauty and the headlines. And maybe it teaches us something about the power of reinvention and the courage it takes to start over. If there's one thing clear, it's that Grace Kelly's legacy will never fade. Whether remembered as a Hollywood legend or a beloved princess, her life continues to inspire and captivate, proving that true grace is found not just in appearance, but in resilience and heart. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the fascinating lives of icons who change history. What do you think about Grace's choice to leave Hollywood? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the stories behind the headlines.